All right, so the basic economic problem is that people have unlimited wants and needs. However, there are limited resources. They sometimes use the word finite also. So it's about the unlimited wants versus the limited resources. You get 2 marks for this. All right. Uh, However, if it is a 4 mark definition, then you will add about the scarcity. And the way it works is something like this. For 4 marks, this is what I would write, that people have unlimited wants and needs. However, there are limited resources. So this leads to scarcity because you have limited resources, and obviously this leads to scarcity. And since resources have alternative uses, consumers and producers have to make a choice. Okay? And whenever you have choices and you choose the first choice, what is this next best alternative called? When first choice is taken, then the next best alternative forgone is the opportunity cost. If I have to show it like a little from the point of view, so this is what we're talking about. So unit 1.1 says define the nature of the economic problem. We're saying this is the economic problem, that people have limited resources and there are unlimited wants. Now, when you have this problem, every society in the world has to face this problem. Whether it's a command economy like North Korea or it's a free market economy like the United States or a combination. Now, every economy has to ask themselves the 3 economic questions. All right. What are the 3 economic questions? So the 3 economic questions is what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Every type of economy has to answer this question to sort out their issue that they have. So in what to produce, it's a question about what good should we make. So we've already had a discussion on should we make consumer good or service with it? Should we make capital good? Should we make merit good? Should we make public good? Should we make demerit good? So what type of economic good should be produced with these limited scarce resources? Then the question is, all right, let's decide. We want to make consumer goods. We want to make cars. So then you have to decide how to produce it. So when we're deciding how to produce it, इसके साथ जो एक matching question जाता है, that is how much to produce. How to produce and how much to produce sort of like are trying to answer the same thing. For example, when we decide how to produce, we're talking about the method of production, what resource to involve, what's the design, what's the production system for it. So usually you can have a discussion on whether you want a capital intensive or do you want a labor intensive. The thing is, it really depends on the good also. Certain goods, if you want to make large quantities, it the tendency is that capital intensive method would work. How would you define capital intensive? We'd say capital intensive is when you're using more machines than labor. If you just say capital intensive means more machine, then that's an incomplete definition. You can't get your 2 marks for it. You have to compare it. Capital intensive is more capital versus the labor. And then the labor intensive would mean that you have more labor than capital. Okay. Now, certain products requires capital intensive ways because it's a standardized, large scale, I'd say standardized, large scale production. So in a case like this, capital intensive methods tend to work more. However, if it's like a customized and small scale production, then you tend to have more of a labor intensive. There's a lot more things involved in this. कि आपके पास capital है भी मुल्क में कि नहीं है? Do you have enough skilled labor or not? So, it really depends, but this would be the main thing about how to produce. And then when we speak about for whom should we be producing, who is the buyer for it? Is it the household, the consumers? Okay, is it the households? Or is it the businesses? Is it the government? Is it the foreigners in terms of export? So who are we producing it for? So these are the 3 economic questions that needs to be asked, and that helps the society, a step forward to what needs to be done. Okay, so in exam, you should be prepped for a question something like, explain why the economic problem can never be solved. Okay, and we're saying that's true. Economic problem can never be solved because the economic problem is this. So when people have unlimited wants versus a finite resource, so for a 4-marker, the way the marks are going to be distributed is, the first thing is you tell us what the economic problem is. People have unlimited wants, but there are limited resources. So you get 2 marks for that, and then you continue and you say that because of the limited resources, there's a problem of scarcity. You get another mark for that. But the main thing you have to talk about is why it can never be solved is because we assume that the unlimited wants will always be greater than the finite resources available. The resources growth is slower than the growth of the wants by the people. So there is always going to be a shortfall of resources available. And that's going to be your final 2 marks, that the growth of wants exceeds the growth of the resources. For a much longer answer, for a much more marks related question, then you can even go on to the idea that how trade can solve this problem, not solve the problem, but reduce this problem. Because if you have limited resources, you can import all these resources and goods for people to produce with and consume. So it's going to sort of like help you out. Not only that, in fact, even technology has helped us reduce this problem because we can use the resources much more efficiently, all right, and we can produce more from the given resources without much wastages. So on one side you have the unlimited wants, but your limited resources through effective means of producing can at least close in the gap. Okay, sometimes they use the word of globalization. Globalization is how countries can so easily communicate with each other and trade with each other. And if you have lesser resources, you can import. If you have fewer goods, then you can import it. And through that, the problem can be reduced, but it can never be solved.